I tried. All right, we're going to start with a song. I'll do this one. This is by Zach Krause and Chris Moran. This is a song by Zach and Chris. Gonna put this over there so we didn't have to sit here and look all awkward. That didn't work.
Now we just have to try not to make stupid faces.
Yeah, right. Cool. Welcome to Phil's show. That was a track by Zach and Chris out of Grand Haven. Zach on guitar, Chris on the production. Corey, what did you think of that track?
I like the vibe of it quite a bit. That kind of like ambient, like
It was a little secret
twangy.
griefy.
Right.
It was a
I
little bit
can see
secret
that,
griefy.
Yeah. Which maybe that's why I like it, because
Yeah,
I
maybe.
do love that heavy reverb, like slow bob thing going
Yeah.
on, which I do like that for sure. Yeah, especially in the bridge of it,
Yeah.
there was some real nice like mellow going on, and I was really feeling that.
It was cool.
Yeah.
So this is Corey Bickford. Corey Bickford and I go back real long ways.
Real long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We go so far back. You were the Ryan Ruffner lookalike. If anybody
That's
knows that
fantastic.
reference. Ryan Ruffner was a singer in a band back in high school called The Antics.
We went to church together. Actually,
Oh, for
too.
real?
Yeah, Ryan and I did.
I think it was mostly because you guys had a very similar haircut.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had that like, I wonder if he's gone bald. Now that you mentioned that, I wonder if he went bald. I hope so for his sake. But
Ryan.
it looked like a helmet.
Yeah.
Both of us had that hair going.
Yeah, like the bob,
Yeah.
almost like a bob.
Yeah. Similar dressing too. Like we definitely wore like very similar pants.
Yeah.
Which is, I totally see it.
Yeah. So after Ryan Ruffner, you were involved in quite a bit of music.
Yeah. I tried to be really from then up until just a few years ago with Secret Grief. Secret Grief was the last like project that I was involved with in any kind of front-facing capacity.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the most recent thing. But before that, I mean, yeah, so much. I couldn't keep it straight.
You were in the Mees.
I was.
My first punk band
Yeah,
in high
exactly.
school.
Lindied the Mees.
You lindied the Mees. Another reference that if you're old school enough, you'll get. Yeah, you played guitar. That was when the Mees got a little bit more experimental with our sound.
Yeah.
And-
Really started letting you guys showcase what you were all capable of. Was
Yeah.
what I felt.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. I wish we were to like recorded some of the later stuff we were doing with
Yeah.
you because it was very cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah, so we've not only been around each other in the music scene for a long time, we've actually collaborated a lot. I've worked with
Yeah.
Secret Grief as
Back
an
when we were Tiger
engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right when you made the transition
Yeah.
from Tiger to Secret Grief.
Yep.
I would highly recommend, if you haven't, go check out Secret Grief's music. You can find it on Bandcamp. I think it's also on all streaming services.
I think so. At least some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The project that we did was called Mutual Attraction Opposite Direction.
Oh, yep. That's correct.
I recorded and helped produce those songs, and it was a really cool experience. We
Yeah.
did some really cool things.
Yeah.
We recorded the drums in a basement. My buddy had bought this house in the Heights, and when they were clearing stuff out of the basement, they found this cedar room that was used as like a sauna or something. And I asked them for permission to record the drums for that project in there, so that's what we did. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Secret Grief, you moved on from that. Where'd you go
Mhm.
after Secret Grief?
I stepped away from music. I
Yeah.
wasn't having fun anymore, so stopped doing that for a while. And it took some time. I didn't play guitar for months, really, and I just checked out.
Yeah.
Really got burned out on all of it from like touring all the time and
Yeah.
like playing shitty basements where it's like not the fun kind anymore. You
Yeah.
know, like
Lugging Sean McMahon's huge fucking amplifier down the stair sets.
that he insisted he kept in the case.
Yeah.
Thing was massive.
That was awesome.
A true monster. But yeah, so between that and like dealing with just life happening and like getting into, I was damn near 30 when I stopped, and
Yeah.
it just kind of like
Where
The-
to next?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It
Yeah.
was no longer feeling like a now thing. It felt like a then thing. You know?
Yeah, I feel you.
And so yeah, stepped away from that, went back, worked in coffee for a while. I was
Yeah.
a cafe director at a shop in Grand Rapids called Lion Street Cafe that I really liked.
Is that in Easttown?
No, it's in Heritage Hill.
Oh, okay.
So like
Yeah,
right
yeah.
by. Do you know where Martha's Vineyard is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's same owner and everything.
Oh,
So,
cool.
great family and
Yeah. I like Martha's Vineyard a lot.
good folks for sure.
You moved out of state for a while too, didn't you?
I did, yeah. After I finished up, I went back and finished up my degree in rhetoric and writing,
Oh, cool.
and with a minor in comparative religions, and started doing technical writing. Did some contract work for a while, and moved out to Portland, Oregon, and lived out there for a year, and quickly realized that it was just not the place for me to be, and it was not a place that I loved. It was not a place that I wanted to invest in. And so I was like, all right, Muskegon it is. Let's do this.
I kind of had a similar experience moving out to Los Angeles.
Really?
Yeah, I got out there and I spent a year there, and by the end of it, I was like, this isn't really the place that I love. The place I love is Muskegon,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I came back.
Yeah. LA's supposed to be beautiful, right? So
It's gorgeous. Yeah, the weather is like the greatest part about it. It's like always perfect weather. Always.
yeah.
Like it rains like once a year on a mountaintop. Like, no, the weather's amazing. What's really weird about the city of Los Angeles is like a good like 70 to 80% of the people are temporary,
Right.
because everybody
That makes
goes there to
sense.
chase their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And they save up their life savings and they go out there, and it's crazy expensive to live. And basically, if you don't have any opportunities, you're going to spend your whole life savings in like 2 or 3 months
Yeah,
and go back home.
that makes sense.
So a good majority of the people out there are just temporary residents,
Right.
who come and go. So it was weird. It was weird trying to get people motivated and started, because everybody's so like in survival mode too.
Right.
You know?
That makes sense. Do you feel like with the transience of the residents, because I know I felt a similar thing in Portland, like
Yeah.
very few people are from Portland.
Yeah.
So like, do you feel like that kind of like drive and investment is harder to find, or rather the fact that it's harder to find, do you feel like that's what like loses that connection for you, given like the background that we share of like, I feel like so much of like the Muskegon punk community was about community, like over everything. So I know
Yeah.
for me, like at the core of everything that I've tried to do, it's always been like, whether I like it or not, I don't even think about it. It's like
Yeah.
a true north to be like, well, right, we're going to do this cool thing, but if it's not investing in the community,
What is it
why
doing?
are we doing
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that definitely. And I like, it's so crazy. I wish we had technology like we had back then.
Yeah.
Because unless someone was a part of what was going on in the early to mid 2000s
Mm-hmm.
with the music scene around here, I try to explain it to people, and I feel like people think I'm over exaggerating.
Right. Yeah.
But we really had something special going on.
Yeah.
And like I've been chasing that ever since. Like
Right.
I want to recreate it. And I've been somewhat successful here and there
Yeah.
with different things that I've done,
Absolutely.
but it's never hit that peak moment that we saw, post high school
Yeah.
or even during high school.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting because Muskegon used to be a crazy hotbed
Yeah.
for music, and it wasn't just the punk scene. There was a metal scene, there was a hardcore scene.
Yeah.
And then in each scene there were like different divisions of different things.
Yep.
They would sometimes come together, they would sometimes do their own things. But I think, me personally, I've always been chasing towards like that community feel that we had during that time, because it wasn't just putting together shows and concerts.
Right.
We were hanging out all the time. We lived in houses with crazy amount of people in them.
Mm-hmm.
We were eating together. We had the potlucks, the vegan potlucks, once a week. There were so many different parts why that worked, and why it was so community based, and why everything kept flowing for so long.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to recreate, because you gotta it wasn't just one person
No. Right.
directing all of that. There were many leaders in the scenes who were standing up and taking their part and moving forward with it. So it's like, yeah, how do you recreate? How do you inspire people to be a
Right.
leader?
Right.
You know?
Right. And empower them to like know that they have that within themselves, and
Yeah.
like help people to, you know, not think that leadership is about directing people.
Yeah.
It's about inspiring. And
Yeah,
connecting
exactly.
with people.
I honestly and truly believe the best leaders in history are the ones that come out and inspire. And sometimes it's the unlikely heroes, you know?
Right.
Sometimes it's like people you don't expect.
Yeah.
And actions you don't expect, or things you don't expect coming from people you don't expect.
Yeah.
But ultimately what it comes down to when you want to build and when you want to grow is inspiring not just your team but all teams. In order to do that, and all teams, you know, have some pseudo leader
Right.
that kind of steps up and says, no, I can take control of this. I can host a show. I can host a potluck. I can host a open mic or whatever it may be. But it's all about inspiring and making people believe that they can stand up and be that person in the community.
Absolutely.
And we just happen to know music, so that's why all the references go along with like music when we're talking about it. But there's all different types of leaders we know in the community doing different things. And I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to watch my documentary?
Yes. Yeah. I watched it last night.
What did you think?
I liked it. I really loved the project. I will say that. Like,
Yeah.
even above what I thought of like the documentary as a documentary. Like,
Yeah.
To me, the fact that you were doing exactly what we're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
it was not about like, let me like find a bunch of producers and put my voice on all their tracks. It was about like, let me connect with all these artists and help them to elevate each other and the community as a result. And yeah, I just absolutely loved that.
You know what's really cool is all the artists that I highlighted
Mhm.
in the film and did the backstory on are all still working together.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's so cool. This little culture spawned out of that moment.
Yeah.
Just making it accessible and making it believable that we can do these things.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the biggest thing is like the biggest hurdles I've ever run into, and the thing that frustrates me and irritates me the most is when somebody says that I can't do something.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll give me a bunch of reasons about why it won't work.
Right.
That drives me crazy, and it happens so frequently
Right.
in our society. With your family, with your close friends. A lot of people are so worried about them failing, they'll project it onto you
Mhm.
and make you think that you're going to fail if you try.
Absolutely.
I don't like that. I want to change that. I want to shift that thinking. So it's like, instead, in that moment when you're thinking about all the things that could go wrong, think about all the things that could go right.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, people have that weird fear of it's not failure, it's just fear of hardships, you know? And like there's too frequently this idea that we have to like things have to be easy. If you're not naturally good at something, you shouldn't do it. And it's so limiting, and it's you know, I could speculate on why it happens or whatever, because it's like people believe these systems of power that benefit off of them being, you know, subordinate to those systems of power. And so they come up with these ideas, and it's like, oh, but that couldn't work because X, Y, and Z, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, right, X, Y, or Z might happen, but let's give it a shot. And if it does, then hey, look, we've got a new obstacle to face.
Right. Well, let's deal with it in the moment.
Exactly.
Instead of trying to completely stop it from happening.
Yeah.
And I've faced that obstacle so many times. I did the donut hole
Mm-hmm.
on Sherman, and it was the same thing. There were people that wanted to do other things in the building.
Right.
And there was us who wanted to do our thing in the building. And we couldn't come to a compromise because it constantly turned into, like, one of the questions I got asked about throwing live events was, if somebody in a KKK uniform showed up, would you let them in? That is such a ridiculous thing to prepare for.
Right.
You know, like, in what world, in what dimension
Right.
is something like that? And even if it does happen, like let's deal with it in the moment.
Right.
But why would that be a bar?
Right.
You know what I mean? That you have to set, like, well, KKK uniforms, we got to put that on the flyer. No KKK uniforms allowed.
Right.
You know, it's like, why? And they
Right.
wanted to put like no jerks on the flyers,
Right.
on all the flyers. Like, what is that? You're instigating the jerks.
Right.
You're
Exactly.
instigating the exact people you don't want to come. Now they have a reason to come and be a jerk
Right.
because you
Absolutely.
specifically are telling them not to. That makes a jerk want to be more jerky,
Right.
you know?
And also, it makes it so that you no longer have to hypothetically interact with jerks, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cool. So you just want to like pretend these people don't exist in the world?
Yeah, shut them off.
Like, yeah, it makes
Doesn't
no
make sense.
sense. Like, if you engage with those folks, you might find common ground somewhere. Maybe you won't like them. That's fine. You don't have to. Like, but you're a part of the same society. You
I
have
just want to say
figure that
Rick
out.
Johnson, the rock and roll machine, just tapped in.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
The
pretty
Rick?
epic.
That's great.
The Rick Johnson. What's up to everybody in the chat? I want to take a quick moment to say we got Casey Spolman leaving some great comments.
Oh, nice.
We got Zach Krause in here. I think I saw Blake Mudge earlier. Blampy.
Nice. I was actually just thinking about Casey Spolman the other day. I remembered he and I. This is just a story between he and I, but it was great. When we were like 17 or 18 or something, he was staying at my house, and we stayed up for like 2 hours or something, discussing like different places we stay in and what we would do if like a zombie attack occurred in those
Yeah.
places. And I was just like, man, this is a good dude right there. I love it.
That is the preparation I would like to see people preoccupied with.
Given those brain workouts.
Yeah. So we're going to listen to another track real quick. Take a little minute. This next song is by an artist called Joey Deuces. He's a rapper from here in Muskegon. This track is called Reborn Freestyle. It's from his 2020 Vision mixtape. So let's go ahead and give this a listen, and we'll be right back. Got it.
This guy was in the documentary, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, life's a bitch. I fucked the world and gave her stretch marks. When I embarked, the tech spark, you're a dead mark. Every song I did a feature on, mine's the best part. I'm taking over right now, it was just a rough start. So watch me go and get smart on these stupid fucktards. Bitch, I hold the mic like a gun. If I don't like what you sung, then I'm loading up them lyrical drums. Shit's wet when you listen, like an ear with a tongue. Yeah, I'm the best thing, buzzing like beer in a cup. And I'm the best thing, smoking like dispensary bud. So don't question me, bub, like is he even a thug? I'll put your face in your feet and have you eating the rug. I'm pissing all up on your grill, you're looking thirsty as fuck. Drinking liquor for breakfast and eat a perky for lunch. Try to beef with me, I'll turn your ass to jerky and stuff. Thinking that they could wear the crown, but they ain't worthy enough. Electrifying with my lyrics, bitch, I'll give you a jump. I'll make them kiss my ass right after I'm taking a dump. I'll really do that shit for real, man, I ain't making it up. I'm about to blow like taking 2 liters and shaking them up. I'm taking blades to the brains, I'm about to fade them all up. Yeah, what I do in a day, you couldn't do in a month. I love breaking beats down and rolling up musical blunts. It's therapeutic when you do it and you hearing a puff. First time I had the experience, it was eerie as fuck.
That was Joey Deuces with the track Reborn Freestyle off of his 2020 Vision mixtape. Check out more of him. You can find him on Facebook. Joey Deuces. Deuces like peace sign, deuces. We're back. All right. So last we were talking about leaders stepping up in the community. You had watched my documentary film, So Muskegon. So this brings me to a thought I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Okay.
And so we have a weird historic moment happening in
Yep.
the United States. Maybe technically even like globally and stuff.
Yep.
It's a little just to give people a understanding or a backstory. I'm I was a skateboarder for a very long time. I took it very seriously.
Mhm.
And one thing we hated, notoriously hated in the skateboard community, was posers. I still hate posers. I can't get rid of this feeling. So what frustrates me, irritates me a little bit when I look at this is like when a trend comes through and the mainstream pop culture grabs onto it,
Right.
they fuck it up every
Big
time.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching, these legitimate protests about things that I've clearly been working towards, goals I've clearly been working towards, but I can't help but feel like frustrated and irritated by the mainstream pop culture effect of it.
Right.
Because it's like, to me, it feels like and looks like a here today, gone tomorrow.
Absolutely.
2 weeks from now, it's going to be a new trend, a new anti-Trump thing going on,
Right.
and we're on to the next subject, and we forgot about Black Lives Matter and the whole movement happening in the inner city that's right here in Muskegon
Yep.
that has been ignored for decades.
Yep.
And so I hear these voices and I say, great, it's great that you have these opinions and you have these voices, but I want to see your actions.
Big facts. Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think about that? What do you think about that's kind of a hot take that I gave.
I think you're right that it is, but it's weird to me that it is, because to me what you're saying I think that the parallel of like posers, that whole thing is like, poser is this idea of like, basically it's lacking substance. You're just, like you were saying, here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I have the exact same issue with what's going on.
Yeah.
Because you see people and it's just like, it's really great that you're upset about this, but like posting a black square on your social media is like, 1, a marketing campaign.
Yeah.
2, not really doing anything.
Yeah.
And those things enough, it's just kind of like, this is a legit important issue that you need to be here for, like, especially, I mean, when you really care about it, that's when it gets really hard to talk about. I think,
Yeah.
Because it is just kind of like,
you don't want to stop the flow of awareness, because awareness is an important part of this. It does need more awareness.
It is, yeah.
And it does need to be spoken about more, but it needs leaders.
Yes. That's
kind of to bring it all the way back to where we started, is it needs leadership.
It does.
And sometimes it comes from unexpected places.
Yeah.
Myself as an example, I'll put myself on the target.
Right.
And you wouldn't expect some skater punk kid would turn into this adult, whereas like I've spent the last 10 years going into Muskegon Heights, trying to interact with underprivileged people.
Right.
Of all different colors. I don't specifically look at black people and go, I got to help them.
Yeah.
I'm looking at poor people. It's a class thing.
Big time. Yeah, absolutely. That is undeniable.
Yeah. So, so like you were saying, when you have these marketing things come around, it distorts it. It like, it almost makes you feel like you're doing something.
Right. And it ignores the reality of the power dynamic that's existing. Like, these corporations do not have an interest in people benefiting from these things, but they recognize that people are inspired, and so they're like, oh, you should be inspired to buy Nikes. Like, rather than inspired to, like, like defund the police or whatever it might be. It's just kind of like...
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just... aggravating, because it is like taking people's good intentions, which the thing for me is like, I used to have a real issue with intention, but intention is a bridge to a place that you need to get to.
Yeah.
And so the intention is important, and to me, I'm just kind of like, it's just part of my anxiety and my, like, some other like parts of me, that it's just kind of like, well, why can't we just get to the other side? This is where we need to be.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, so you need to learn to like interact with people's intentions, and like we were saying, like you could say no jerks, you could say no posers, and it's like, right, but you need those people. Like, we don't get there without people.
Yeah.
So the fact that like you have to, like, the thing that people don't recognize when like you have these feelings of just kind of like, you're coming into something that like you think is just a fad, like it's just a fad in your head, you know, like to be like Black Lives Matter and stuff, and it's like, no, they really do. So let's stop and let's like take this and move it forward together. Like,
yeah.
and that's just something that, like you're saying, like you need
the
leaders.
You
for
need
that.
leaders, and it can't be marketing
Right.
boards with people trying to figure out how to sell you new Nikes, like you're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
It's not about buying a product.
No. Yeah.
It's not about buying into an idea.
Right.
It's about stepping up and doing something that actually changes and helps underprivileged people.
Absolutely.
And I gave this thought to somebody the other day. I said, you know, it's like the demand to instantly change
Mm-hmm.
is like asking a car company to make a car that runs on water
Right.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen that quick.
Yeah.
And from experience, it took me 10 years to be able to do something like So Muskegon
Right.
and gain the respect as a leader and of the community that I was trying to engage with. It took me 10 years of building and providing and doing things for free, and it took a long time to get to that point.
Right.
And it took a lot of experiences, a lot of understanding, a lot of communication. Nothing happens in an instant. You got to work a little bit, you know. You just it's like any goal you set. You set a goal, and then you take all the steps to get to the goal.
Mm-hmm. I think that that's a really interesting parallel also because of, you know, like you came into this community where it's like, who is this skater punk kid, you know?
Yeah.
Who's this poser, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's just kind of like
Yeah.
you can become a leader. And so it's like that whole idea of just kind of like you're building substance along this way.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, right, I know that I can lead because I know what we need. I'm not just coming in and being like, this is what we need, like as some asshole, you know? Like,
Yeah.
So
I know my thing, and my thing is music and the arts.
right.
So in that way, I want to help the underprivileged people because I know music and the arts took me away from being a very bad teenager.
Right.
You know, I could have been doing way more destructive shit with my life.
Right.
And I probably would have if I didn't have the outlet. Like at first I thought it was going to be sports, and I got bored with sports.
Mm-hmm.
Then I found skateboarding. Then I found music, you know, and it was like this gradual thing. It was because like sports didn't fit me. Like I'm tall. Everybody wanted me to play basketball.
Right.
When I went to practice and shit, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, I like playing in the driveway with the neighbors. Like
Yeah.
that was where I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
So like the structure and foundation of that part of the system wasn't for me. But that doesn't mean that the system is flawed,
Right.
because that part of the system works for many other people.
Yep.
I just had to find my other, you know, I had to find skateboarding, and I had to find music.
Your
and-
avenues.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's important as somebody who understands that very specific group
Mm-hmm.
that I step out and lead within those underprivileged communities that aren't getting those outlets.
Right. Yeah. That's the way it has to be done, realistically.
Yeah, I think that's the change. And there's all different types of people. You enjoy writing,
Right.
right? That's what you said you master. What was your master?
It was rhetoric and writing.
Rhetoric and writing.
Yeah. Yep.
There's all types of, my friend Dwanye, Dane
Mm-hmm.
Hammerly, he played drums in If He Dies, He Dies back in the day.
Yep.
Him and I used to do these hip hop classes in low income areas and for special needs students.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Yeah, with ACT, right?
Yeah, ACT. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
My partner actually used to work there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Chelsea.
Chelsea. I might have met her.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, so Dane would teach the class, and I would come in on the last day and record the song.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, every time it made the teachers cry, it made the parents cry. But what it did was it gave this avenue of arts and creativity to a group of people who never would have thought it was possible.
Right.
You know, to have your own song and have it recorded and sound good and all that. So there's plenty. The point I'm getting at is there are plenty. Like, you don't have to go out and start from scratch
Right.
if you're trying to make a change or a difference in your community. go out and find, maybe there's already a nonprofit operating.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's, and in whatever you're interested. Some people it's videos, some people it's sports. There's plenty of coaching opportunities. There's mentorship. Maybe, you know, that's your thing. There's homeless shelters.
Right.
You know, they need help. They need food. They need donations. They need people. Like, there are many different options.
Mm-hmm.
And awareness is one. We do need to spread awareness, but we
Yeah.
also need the action that comes after the awareness.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I want to see people motivated to start looking within their own communities, you know, like, how can I help? What can I do with my skill set, my knowledge, and my wisdom?
Yeah, and I think that even just because I know as somebody who like lives with depression and stuff like that, sometimes like the idea of finding these resources and like being like, am I always going to be able to show up for these people? Like, am I really providing? Maybe I shouldn't even do it, right? You like the talk we were talking about that you get from elsewhere, like when you're dealing with certain types of mental illness, you don't even have to leave the house to get this wonder of deflation.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, and so like to me it's even just kind of like not being so isolated, you know,
Yeah.
like reaching out to people who are you're more comfortable talking to, or even just like meeting your neighbor, you know, like these kind of things are going to like help you to better understand what your community needs because you're including yourself within your community.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it takes leaders. Everybody does deserve and should have that capacity, but like for some people, like you have to get there. Like
Yeah.
like, you know,
It
took you,
takes
like,
time.
yeah.
It's and especially like if you're trying to be a leader, that also takes balls. It takes gusto. You
Yeah.
know, it takes a wind behind your sails.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, and not everybody's a leader.
Right.
You know, and that's just a part of understanding who you are. You know, it took me. I'm 35. It took me, you know, a good 30-something years to
Mhm.
figure out who I am as a person.
Right.
As opposed to trying, you know, to pose out here and be a poser and have my eggs in all different baskets. And, you know, now that I've kind of zoned in on who I am, I've accepted myself, I'm starting to feel comfortable in my skin because
Mhm.
I, too, have suffered with depression. I'm an isolator. I like to isolate alone. And,
Mhm.
you know, any of my close friends will know that. I might disappear for a month and then pop back up.
Yep.
But I'm like a weird introverted extrovert.
Yep.
Like I have no problem communicating with people, you know, and like going and you put me, I'll be the center of attention or whatever. Like that shit doesn't scare me,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
It took a long time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot of different things, playing in bands and like working through those nerves and, you know, all that, and skateboarding and rolling up on a 5-stair, you're trying to ollie or whatever. It takes some balls to
Yeah. To
do
jump.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all, you know, it's all learning who you are as a person, what you offer to this world or what you could offer.
Yeah. Not what the world tells you you need to offer.
Exactly. And that probably is what frustrates me about what's going on right now, is I feel like the world's telling me to care about something I've been caring about.
Exactly. And they might tell you that you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like, no. If you don't like include the hashtag, like you're not
Yeah,
actually
right.
helping.
Yeah,
It's
you're
just
not
like-
marketing it right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That is it's unacceptable. I guess is really the only
Yeah,
thing
it
that I
really
can-
is.
can
It's all right. So I in my past was very anti-capitalist.
Mhm.
In my present, I am very pro-capitalist, but I'm aware that there are bad parts of capitalism. There are good parts of capitalism. That's a bad part of capitalism. The marketing and turning, like, man, I could probably open my email up right now and there's like 5 different emails from some corporate thing about Black Lives Matter or COVID-19 and how we're dealing with the stress at Nike or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, y'all don't even care.
Yeah.
You don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
But they've paid somebody to craft a message that makes it seem like they really care and they get it.
Yeah,
it's
and
just
they're
like-
really good at it.
They
though.
are.
They're really
they're
good.
experts. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just a matter of like part of why they seem so good at it is like people are ready to accept it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it goes back to the leadership thing in that people do need to be led. A lot of people do need to be led in one way or another, and it's a neutral thing,
Yeah.
you know? But the fact is, like, corporations recognize that, and so they're going to lead you. But
Yeah.
are they going to lead you where your community and where you need to go?
No, they're going to lead you towards their profits.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is the bad part of capitalism.
Yeah,
for
it is.
sure.
It is bad. And there's many tricks in the world.
Yeah.
Whether it's capitalism or socialism or communism or anarchism, there's all these tricks
Right.
that will stop you and trick you and fool you and confuse you. And it's hard to, like, one, it's hard to teach. So when you look back and like, why didn't school teach us that? Because there's layers to
Yeah.
this shit you have to understand. And, and to teach that to a 6th grader or 8th grader or a 15-year-old, I was like, you know, you have to go through some life experiences so you understand the multiple layers you're
Right.
going to be stepping into.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. Let's pull up another song and give that a listen, take a little break. This one is by Sip. He's a Muskegon artist. This one is called Love. Oh, that's my remix of it. Oh, we'll play that. I did a remix of it to surprise him. So here it is.
Surprise.
Oh. All right, that was Sip. That was Sip with a remix that I made for a song called Love. Very interesting artist. He's actually one of the... He inspires me. He showed me his writing book. I met him at the So Muskegon project, and he was one of the artists that I did a backstory on.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed me his writing notebook, and he writes his songs like you would write a screenplay.
Really?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And he's into acting. He was like a theater student and all that.
Oh, okay.
He's into acting and dancing, and he also writes songs. But like, very skilled writer.
Yeah.
Very, very skilled writer.
Sounds
His name's Sip.
Sip.
S-I-P-P. All right. Yeah, so COVID-19, let's talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit.
absolutely. It's weird.
It's a strange, I mean, just historically strange period of time here in 2020.
Yeah.
A lot of questionable behavior going on.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hot take about COVID-19.
Okay.
I think the virus was very real.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reaction to it was very political.
That seems like not a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that some of the actions seemed too convenient.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was too much politically going on with it for it to seem like, regardless of the reality of the situation, I think that people were taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
And there's just so much historical evidence to expect something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just
I
kind
mean,
of
they say it themselves. Don't waste
exactly.
a good. What is it? What is the quote they use? They say Nancy Pelosi said it. I think Chuck Schumer said it. Don't waste a good crisis. That's what they say.
That
It's like an
sounds-
old quote, and they like got up on in front of cameras and said it. They
Oh,
said,
yeah.
"You know that old saying, don't waste a good crisis."
Right. It's embarrassing.
But we
It's-
locked ourselves up for 2 months. For the first 2 weeks, I took it very serious.
Yeah.
For the first 2 weeks, I took it very, very serious.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, you know what? You got me for 2 weeks, but I'm going to go outside.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to go to the gas station and fill up gasoline. And the more I went outside, because I live just off of Apple Avenue here in Muskegon.
Mhm.
It's a fairly busy, for Muskegon standards, it's a fairly busy road. There's almost constantly traffic on it throughout the day. And I had a lot of thoughts. I was just sitting in my backyard looking at Apple and seeing all this traffic. And I'm like, what? I thought we were in lockdown. What is all this traffic?
Right.
You know, we're at historic unemployment. And like, what is everybody doing moving around? And the more I got out into public, the more I, came to my senses. It was almost like being inside, like, turned off my senses to the world.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I almost feel like that was part of the taking advantage. And then it's so weird how this just rolled right into rioting.
Yeah.
And it's also weird how the protests started rioting on the first night.
Yeah.
Because usually
Not
that's like
common.
a slow build.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people get more and more pissed as the days go on because nothing is happening,
Right.
you know? And like almost out the gate, it went from COVID-19 to like making fun of the protesters in Lansing
Mm-hmm.
and saying they're stupid, they're going to spread COVID-19 to like 1 million person march in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Like, one to the other. It's almost like I was watching Joe Rogan. He said it was like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
And like when you think about it, when you zoom out and look at the big picture, it's like this seems a little bit too coincidental
Yeah.
to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
Especially because with every one of those things, you hear like there's like videos of the police like setting out bricks and stuff like that
Yeah.
at protests and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and you hear like just all these. I mean, one thing I remember, like what scared me initially with the COVID-19 situation was when it was first being talked about. They were like, everybody will know someone who has died of COVID-19 by the time this is over. And like,
Died.
yeah. And so I was just kind of like, all right, well, that's terrifying. Like, I'm going to definitely do, all that I can. And like, still am doing, all that I can. But I definitely agree that like,
Yeah.
there was a point where it just kind of got to be like, I don't know anybody who's even like known anybody who's died. And like, I know people who work in healthcare and stuff, and they're just like,
Yeah.
they're like, it's bad, but like, no, like it's not that
Yeah.
bad. It's like we have a responsibility to each other, and like that's why like when you see people like at the peak of it who are just like brazenly like, I'm not wearing a mask, like that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff. It was just kind of like, what that really says to me, it's like, I'm not like, you need to like be mindful of COVID-19. I'm just like, is it that big of an inconvenience to maybe protect your community? Like,
Yeah, right.
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like nobody's wearing them because they're comfortable. Like,
yeah.
nobody's
They're
like,
rather uncomfortable.
they're terrible, but it's like, you know,
There's an argument to be
not a big
made that
deal.
it's probably bad for you to wear a mask all day.
yeah, all day
Yeah.
for sure. But
Yeah.
also it's like, probably shouldn't be inside all day. It shouldn't be
Yeah, right.
in
yeah,
a large group all day.
No, it
There's-
turns out that we should have been out in the sunlight.
really?
From what studies are saying, is that
Let's see.
sunlight actually is a COVID-19 killer,
Oh,
and warmer temperatures and disinfectant and all these things. So it's
Huh.
like, you know, the normal things that like kill a cold or the flu,
right.
you know, turns out this is susceptible in the same way. But we're learning more every day about it. We're also learning that maybe that was a trend, you know?
Yeah.
Because of the way it came in, it was strong. And then now all of a sudden that we got to protest for political reasons, it seems to be the back burner situation, you know? It went from
Right.
everyday, nonstop news coverage to like rioting,
Yeah.
everyday, nonstop news coverage. Interesting.
Yeah. Convenient.
Yeah, very convenient. Very convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the agent provocateurs, like the
Mm.
police officers dropping off bricks. And I made a post like a week or so ago, or whenever it first started. I said white liberals, something about thug white liberals, because it's a term you don't hear, right? You don't hear thug white liberal. You hear when the news says thug, they want you to think black person,
Right. Right.
you know, or Mexican or
They've worked
Gang-
very hard to make you think that.
Yeah, they've done a lot of programming to get us there. So I was saying white thug liberals are being provocateurs at these. So like, and I wasn't saying that because that's the only ones doing it.
Right.
I'm saying that we need to be aware of this one, because you wouldn't think that this would be the group going in
Right.
and trying to provoke, and because it's connected with the left side, you know, the people protesting and stuff. Why would they go in and start destroying things, and why would they want to do that?
Right.
And it's because, you know, we know a lot of these people from our past,
Yeah.
this anarchist type, and it's exactly what they would do.
Yeah.
It's like what we would have planned to do
Mm-hmm.
when we were in our early 20s and shit. Like, and
Sure.
I can't deny that, and I can't stand back and be like, oh no, they're all perfect on the left, it's the right. No, it's all different groups. There's police, there's Antifa, there's white nationalists and Nazis, there's China. There was a Chinese operative arrested in LA that was dressed in full National Guard gear, armed to
Really?
the teeth. Like,
I didn't see that.
yeah, there's all these things, and unless you're paying super close attention and looking at every single fucking news source, you're gonna miss it, because every news source is only gonna tell you what they want you to hear
Exactly.
and what narrative they're trying to sell.
Yep.
And so what I think with the rioting and stuff, what I would like to see is people really open their eyes and say, okay, it's not just one side of the political over the other.
Right.
There's all types of provocateurs and agents and people trying to co-op and like take over. There's a big power struggle going on. So you can't really nail it to one specific thing and say, this is the bad guy here,
Yeah.
and put up wanted posters and shit like that. It doesn't work because there's too many things at play right now.
Right. Right. And it seems to me that the primary issue really is about like the issue is with the institution. And
Yeah.
so like when you turn it against the individual, you're distracting from the real issue. And so it's just kind of like people are treating whichever side, whichever agents as like this person is the issue. And it's like, no. That is not where we're at. Like
Yeah.
the issue is that systemic injustice is taking place.
Yeah.
And that's like anything else is a distraction. Like that's
Yeah.
where we need to keep our focus, because people are working hard to make sure that this power that protesters and these folks are harnessing is divided, because the weaker that power is, the easier it will be to subjugate.
Yeah.
And so that's why it is like when you hear people talking about like these agent provocateurs and like looking out for them and everything like that, it's just kind of like, no, like there's real work that needs to be done.
Yeah, and
Can
they're
we stay
taking
focused?
away from the drive and the motivation
Exactly.
to fix.
Yeah.
They're being destructive. They're trying to destroy their enemy. They're playing little war games and tactics and things like that.
Yeah.
And unless you there are many battles to be fought. There are
Mhm.
many battles to be fought, but destruction is not a destruction is I'm trying to think of how to word this properly. When we don't want to build from nothing.
Right.
We have a lot. And I went to Brazil.
Mhm.
Do you remember Gabe DeMarzo? Did you ever meet him back in the day?
The name sounds familiar.
He was an foreign exchange student from Brazil. He came up during high school.
I don't think so. No.
We used to bring him up on stage when we played in the Mies, and he would rap in like Portuguese and stuff. It was awesome. He was a
Okay.
brilliant piano player.
That does sound familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went to Grand Haven. I went out to Brazil last year because he invited me out to help produce his band's album. And so Brazil is a third world country.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really traveled outside the United States before. I've been all over the United States. I've lived in California. I've lived in New York. I've lived here. I lived in Arizona. And I've traveled a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially with my last job I had. I was in a different city every single day.
Right.
So I've seen and experienced a lot. And like my experience with going into like poor neighborhoods and like trying to motivate and inspire people, like I just have a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
I thought myself to be very worldly,
Right.
because I had so much experience here in the States. And then I went to a third world country where there is no middle class. There's super rich and super poor,
Right.
And so that was really an eye opener. And then another eye opener was when I went there, how much attention I got for being American. I was like loved. I was adored. And everybody there is learning multiple languages. They're not just speaking Brazilian Portuguese. They're also learning English. So when they get a native English speaker, they want to communicate with you because they're learning,
Right,
right.
right.
And they want to make sure they're doing it right or they're saying things properly or whatever.
Right.
So like anytime we went out into public, I was like the center of attention because they'd be like, "Oh, it's a gringo."
Right.
That's what they call Americans, white Americans, gringos. Which we would look at in America and be like, "Oh, that's racist." But to me, it was just like, "Yeah, I'm a fucking gringo."
Right.
Like
Right.
that's what they call me. That's what makes sense in their brain to them. Why would I put any negative connotation on
Right.
it?
Exactly.
But it opened my eyes and made me realize, because the media would have me convinced that we're hated. Americans are hated all over the world.
Right.
And then I went into this country to come to find out, no, we're actually loved, and they aspire to be a lot like us, because we have great entertainment, we have great arts
Mm-hmm.
and music, and we're like known all around the world for being great thinkers, being, inventors, like
Mm-hmm.
historically, not just to this day, but like historically,
Right.
like the world has kind of followed our lead.
Yep.
And so when I went outside the country and experienced this, it kind of changed my perception, like made me a little bit more proud to live here. It made me a little bit more grateful that I happened to be this energy born here, and be granted all these benefits, like to be able to do this podcast and speak freely. Like some people can't do that
Yeah. Somebody
because of
kicked in
where
the
they're
door.
born.
Right.
And that's the only reason why.
It's true.
And it's like, so it made me realize, like, hey, man, I took a lot of things for granted about being born in America and what it means to the rest of the world and what it means to us. And so I just came back with a little bit more pride, a little bit more enthusiasm And that was like opposite of kind of how I grew up. It was like anti-American, because like, in the early 2000s, we were talking about equal rights and anti-racism and anti-homophobia. And, like, those were the core messages of why America sucked for us.
Right.
And now I'm like kind of on the other flip of the coin. Like, yeah, we have our downsides, but it could be a lot worse. We could be like a third world country where there's like extremely rich and extremely poor,
Yeah.
I grew up mostly poor, but I wasn't poor.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I still went to school. I still had food,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of legitimacy to that. And it needs to be carried, though, I would argue, with a recognition for the nuance of empire tactics.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of, like, yes, we do have, like, very substantive and great things within our culture and to offer, like, as a society, as the folks that we are. But it is also, like, you have to carry that with the I say have to. I really feel that we have a responsibility to also recognize, like, the cultural warfare that exists in terms of, like, there has for so long been media created to influence your scope.
Yeah.
To influence the lens through which you see the world.
I mean, even our school, our education system.
Yeah, 100%. It's like we were talking about. It's like, why didn't I learn this in school? And it is like, yeah, you need life experience.
Some of it.
Yeah, but also it's like...
Some of it's propaganda.
Exactly, 100%. And that can't be ignored, and it too often is. And it's just kind of like, if you can just like, if you're taught to think rather than taught to absorb or, eat the knowledge that you're fed, like, you have to be able to be like, no, like, I'm actually, like, I know that that's not really good, and I know that this is manipulating me, and I can see it for what it is, but there is something there. Like often tend to get caught up in, like, you have to be one or the other, and I think that that's also because of, I mean, it's to go back to what we were saying before, it's like that benefits those in power too. Like, if we're like, no, like, the media is telling us everything we need, and then they're like, no, the media is not telling you anything you need, and it's like,
then we forgot all about the government that's taking full advantage of us.
Exactly.
At every corner.
Who owns the media? And so it's just like, all right, well, like, how about we all, like, turn together and face those people, like, those people, like, the systems. But again, like, it's not even like
one specific thing. It's like all these different shadowy puppeteers. Yeah. And like it's pretty crazy because I like a lot of the things that are happening now, when I talked about them, in my 20s and shit, I was like a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
But now it's like, common knowledge. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, the media is owned by a bunch of wealthy billionaires and they control everything that's put on there. Yeah. Like, that's totally normal. Oh, Jeffrey Epstein, totally pedophile. Yeah. 100%. And he definitely didn't kill himself. Yeah. Like, the fact that that's like a common thing for us to say was like 10 years ago, like, I knew about Jeffrey Epstein because I watched Alex Jones. And Alex Jones is another figure. It's like, oh, now everybody has an opinion about Alex Jones, but where were you, when he was releasing the Bohemian Grove, when he snuck in there and found all these fucking powerful leaders doing this weird theatrical ritual. Right. It's just, it's strange to me. Again, it gets to the poser mentality I have where it's like, no, fuck you, poser. Yeah. Come on.
It's like, this thing, but do you know why this thing?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah. No, I get that completely.
It's interesting. We're in very interesting times. I think we're really living in like a historical period. That's going to be written about for generations. Like, Donald Trump is going to be all different types of, like, I don't know, these psychological people are going to come in and pick apart. We're already seeing it happen in real time.
Yeah, since he started running, that's been a thing.
Yeah, they're like, this this expert is going to explain Trump's mental state.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, who paid him to do that?
Yeah. Donald Trump is an interesting character.
Yeah, I know when you voted for Trump,
Yeah.
I don't want to say you burned a lot of bridges, but
I
other
did
people,
burn. Yeah.
I think other people burned him.
Yeah,
I got to
they
be
did,
honest.
man.
Like, that's a hell of a reason to like cut somebody out.
Yeah,
Like,
I
from-
lost a lot of friends,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Which is, I get where they're coming from.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you know,
totally do too.
right. How can you not? Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like, I remember like when I saw that, I was like, damn, Phil, really?
Yeah.
But then it was also just kind of like, well, Phil's not a stupid guy. Like,
yeah.
I want to hear more, you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
whereas a lot of people were like, fuck you, you voted for Trump. And
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like,
I got a lot of that.
now he's not Phil. Like,
Yeah,
I
right.
don't understand.
Yeah,
that.
all
Like,
my life experience out the window.
Yeah.
I'm just another person to. Oh, he's the reason why.
Yeah.
He's the
Exactly.
one that's ruining it for everybody. No, my thing was like, it was actually a very like punk motivated type of mentality.
Mhm.
For what I was doing, you know, socially, about that.
Mhm.
And like, to me, like, again, it goes back to where we started in this conversation. There's always going to be multiple people who want to tear your dream down, tear
Mm.
your dream apart. And so what I was doing was part motivating people to be comfortable in their own opinions, their own skin.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because I woke up that day when they announced Trump won the presidency, and when Facebook was a fucking mess,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
It was a mess. There were people calling out their grandparents and aunts and uncles and parents and saying fuck you and all this shit. And it's like, what are you, a 13-year-old?
Right.
Like, come on, we're all adults.
Yeah.
You know, like, be accepting a little bit, try to be understanding, like, and it was like no understanding at all.
No.
Even right now you're seeing it.
Yeah.
Oh, if you don't speak up for Black Lives Matter, you might as well delete me. When did this behavior start?
Right.
Where we're just cutting each other off. And if you don't understand how that comes from a deeper manipulative place,
Right.
then you should maybe open up your awareness a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because there's somebody directing you to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and you see it, you see it with like the memes and shit now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, memes have turned into like political warfare,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, now it's somebody will post a meme. They're like, that's a fact. That's truth.
Right.
You know, and
I
that's
just
all they
owned
need.
you.
And they see it, you know, whatever. And idea will spread through a meme. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's not true.
Right.
Sometimes it is true. But I don't think that's a very good way for us to spread information.
No. It's definitely at that point you're just having a parody of a debate, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just
You're using other people's ideas to represent you instead of having that idea yourself and thinking on it and coming up with a way to articulate it to somebody,
right.
you know.
And it doesn't mean you can't laugh at it, you know. Like,
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, a lot of people, it's just kind of like, I reacted to this, it must be true to me. Like,
Yeah.
they just follow those like feelings that don't necessarily have substance again. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it's fine to like have that. It's fine to laugh at something like that's funny. There's nothing wrong with
I'll
that.
laugh at anti-Trump memes if it's funny, if
Right.
it's good comedy.
Exactly.
Then I find it, you know, amusing just like anybody else. But if it's like a political jab, like
Yeah.
there's a red flag that raises in my brain,
Right.
because there's a political motivation behind it
Mm-hmm.
instead of just being funny. It was like when SNL was doing all these skits on Trump and stuff. It just wasn't funny because it was
Right.
like political jabs
Yeah.
instead of just like, he's one of the funniest people that you can make fun of.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to make
Right,
fun of
exact-
him.
to
And you
actually
don't
make
have
it
to
funny.
have a political motivation to do it. You just have to
Yeah.
have his character.
Yep.
It's so easy to make fun of. And I can't believe that, you know, like Hollywood and some of these production companies don't see just how easy it is.
Right. Instead, they turn it into like, oh, we need to like show where we stand,
Yeah.
rather than just kind of being like,
Or they push the, like, he's Hitler, he's a dictator. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like all these political messages. It's like, oh, come on. He's got to do something like Hitler to to have that fucking name attached to him.
Right.
You know?
And also, like, that's just such a cop-out to me, like, to be like, somebody's a Hitler, somebody's like Hitler, somebody's a Nazi, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's like, Hitler was like Hitler,
Yeah.
and the Nazis are like Nazis.
Yeah. You don't say Stalin was like Hitler.
Exactly.
Stalin was Stalin.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And it's just like, it shows that people are just regurgitating these ideas, and it's like,
yeah.
no, you're going to do a lot better if you, like, actually know what he's doing. Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you can
yeah.
actually have conversations about, like, I saw at one point, one thing that I liked it because it was something similar to, you know, I saw something that you did that reminded me of something that I would do. And somebody said something, and you just said, what Trump policies have directly impacted your life, or
Yeah.
something along those
Yeah,
lines. And I
yeah.
was like, that is exactly the conversation that needs to be had, because
Yeah.
it is just so often, like, maybe there are some, maybe
Yeah.
there aren't, but if you don't know, why are you talking?
Yeah.
Like,
And
you-
if your opinion on Donald Trump is that he said bad things about Mexicans, he said bad things about black people, he said bad, and these are what make him racist.
right.
Show me the actions
Mm-hmm.
that justify you calling him a racist.
Yep.
Not because this is what I know,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't watch one end of the spectrum
Right.
when it comes to my information. I don't dig into just one side. I dig into all available. I
Mhm.
try to find as much. So when he says something stupid, I'll go look over here. I'll go look over there. I'll look in the middle. I'll evaluate all this information that I've just absorbed.
Yep.
And then I'll come up with my own understanding of what's going on.
Right.
Right. So like a lot of these things where he's labeled a racist. Well, he said that Mexicans are rapists. They're sending Mexican rapists and criminals.
Mhm.
He thinks all Mexicans are rapists and criminals. No, the media that you watch and get your information from cut that part and then put their own context to it.
Right.
And if you go through the history of these things where it's like, no, I remember him saying that. No, you think you're
Right.
convinced the way your brain works is because that is the image that was implanted in there that
Exactly.
you have. So anything is confirmation to that. When you
Right.
see that information, whether it's true or not, it's confirming that image you have in your mind is correct.
Right.
When a lot of times with this specific character, it has been incorrect, it has been misconstrued.
Yep.
And then it like trying to argue. I have a lot of experience going back and forth with anti-Trump people, and trying to like, because it doesn't just go, oh, okay, he said this thing about Mexicans being rapists, and then I can provide all the information that says that's out of context, that's not a true statement for you to make. And then it's, well, he's a racist because he did this. And it moves on to another thing, and it doesn't say, oh, shit, I was wrong about that thought I had.
Right.
And I've had that thought for a while, and I was wrong about it. And instead of saying, okay, you got me there, good move.
Right.
Like, thank you for informing me of the correct information.
Exactly. Yep.
It's another assault, another attack. And that's what they want us to do. They
Yeah.
want us to be arguing back and forth. And I'm just like, at this point, I hate getting into it with an anti-Trump person, because it's just an assault. And it's like I get backed into a corner and I have to defend this person I don't even want to defend.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just doing it because it's like, it's okay to be pro-Trump.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be against Trump
Yep.
and want a Democrat in office. It's okay to want a Green Party member in office.
Right.
It's like these things are all okay.
Yep.
It's okay to have these thoughts. It's okay to have these opinions. It doesn't make you a racist to support Trump. It doesn't make you an anti-racist to support Joe Biden.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we can't pigeonhole ourselves into there's so many nuances
Yep.
in this world.
Yeah, you really have to find out where people are coming from with why they're doing what they're doing, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's just so easy to be like, oh, you're a Trump supporter, you're racist.
Yeah.
Some are.
Some are, yeah.
Some aren't.
Yep.
Like, it's just like, it's not that simple. It would be beautiful if it were that simple. Like,
It's not. Though.
life
It's-
would be so easy.
Yeah.
But it's just not the
It's-
reality that we live in.
Yeah, it's incredibly nuanced. There's so much.
Yep.
There's so much information. There's so much. And, like, I'm all for having a cool debate
Yep.
about a subject, a topic. I've been my like my whole life, let's talk deeper, let's think deeper, let's go deeper on this subject and really get to a point where we have an understanding of each other and where we're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that happening. I just see this like it's like, it's so weird. It's strange, man. It's strange.
Boring too.
It is.
It's really boring.
And now, especially because it's like just all the same regurgitated things.
Yeah.
And if you watch like another thing, like I'll watch CNN or MSNBC just so I can understand what all these fucking people who watch it are talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
You
Yeah.
know?
I definitely feel that. Like I'm always inquisitive and curious about politics and where people stand and everything like that. And so to me, like, one of the easiest things to do is just follow the primary sources, you know, like when people like you said, it's easy to pull, like, Trump talks a lot. It's easy to pull like a clip of something that he said and be like, he said this unacceptable thing that like proves this thing about him. And it's like, honestly, this dude talks too much for you to like focus on this one little thing.
Yeah, I've gotten in arguments before, and people have been like, well, you just watch Fox News and that's where you get your talking points from. It's like, no, I watch unedited full 2-hour clips of Donald Trump just fucking riffing at some place about bullshit and randomness. Yeah. Like, I really watch this man, and then I don't watch commentary on purpose. Yep. Because I don't care about their commentary. I'm gonna make up my own commentary on it. Yep. But yeah, I guarantee I've watched more raw Trump footage than anybody I've ever argued with, hands down. Yeah, hands down.
I believe it. And I mean, that's definitely like, as the Democratic debates and everything were going on, like for me, that's like must watch, because it's just kind of like, otherwise you're going to hear what people want you to think about happened at the debate. And like, and it's just kind of like,
you gotta watch it.
Yeah. I would see, like, I'd go into work the next day and like people would try to talk to me about it, and they just have like, they'd regurgitate a news story, and I'd be like, that's not at all how it happened. Yeah. Like it would just be really interesting to hear like the way that people spin language to.
Yeah. The spin is incredible.
It's
incredible what they do with some of these clips and these, like, how they'll completely change the context of what is being said to feed some sort of bigger narrative. Yeah. It's real. That's a very real thing.
Yeah. The fact that it works is like,
it's weird, man, because you wouldn't think it would.
It's incredible. Yeah. It's so like, they change it in like such an obvious way. And it's just like, wait, you really believe that? And people are just like, 6 months later, like, damn, you really believe that?
You know what's crazy with Trump is the one that still hangs to this day is the Charlottesville Protests. He said there were fine people on both sides, right? And immediately after he said that, he said, but not the white nationalists, not the racists, the KKK. I disavow them.
Really?
Yeah. Immediately after. He said they're and when he said they were very fine people, he was talking about the people protesting the statue and fighting for the statue to stay. Oh. So he's saying those two groups of peaceful protesters, very fine people. Antifa, the white nationalist group, the KKK, whoever showed up there that were not from that area, that were just provocateurs, they were there to agitate and whatever, start a civil war or whatever is in their fucking brains. Yeah. He disavowed them immediately after that. But all we've seen over and over and over and over again is that one clip where he says there are very fine people on both sides. And people still use that in their arguments against why they don't like Trump. It's, well, he said there were that white supremacists are fine people. It's very clear. Right. It's not even a dog whistle.
Especially when you pair that with like Mexicans or rapists or whatever. Like, you pair those two things
and it starts to build up. You're like, oh fuck, we have a fucking white nationalist racist running the country. It's like, no, we have a reality star who says stupid shit all the time. That's the real truth.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very theatrical. That's what I like about Donald Trump. Yeah. And his presidency. It's very theatrical.
He is. He absolutely
He is, and everybody going after him. It's like watching theater.
Yeah.
It is. It's like watching a soap opera for grown people who like politics.
I think that's really the best way to put it too, because I'm a pretty firm believer that I'm a firm believer that like these folks are like not who are running things. You know, like,
yeah.
As far as the world goes, it's just kind of like I don't think even in America that Trump is that powerful.
Yeah.
And so your use of the word theater, I think,
Yeah.
is perfect. It's something to watch to distract us from what's really happening.
Yeah.
And
And entertain us. And it's part of why, you know, America is a great country. It is, this isn't the first time. It's just the first time we've experienced something this theatrical. But
Right.
this isn't the first time it's happened in history.
no, not at all.
Lincoln was very theatrical.
Yep.
John F. Kennedy was very theatrical. Yeah.
Obama too. I mean, it was a different.
Yeah, but he was like,
It was a different kind of theatrical, but I think that
yeah.
the way that they always spin it with all of these folks, not with Trump, but like with Kennedy, and who knows, in the future they may,
Yeah.
but like they don't use the word theatrical. They call them gifted orators.
Yeah.
And that's what Obama was. Like he had
Very
a
gifted.
different kind of presence.
Yeah.
Like he has gravitas is
Yeah,
like a word that they use a lot of times
Yeah.
for. But then you go all the way
I
back.
think that's what people are really mad about with Trump. Is I think it boils down to like simply that, like
Right.
Trump doesn't get up there and give the gravitas like Obama did,
Yeah.
or like George Bush did. But George Bush was a fucking idiot too.
Yep. True.
He was a
Yep.
fucking idiot.
He was
I
real
still hate
dumb.
George Bush. I still fuck the whole Bush family.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, Iran Contra
I didn't
kind of, like-
change. I just want people to know I didn't change. I just like I'm supporting people who I feel like are being kind of beat up, you know, in the media and shit. And it's like, you know, a lot of these Trump supporters and shit are not racist.
right.
They
I
like
feel
the
that.
America First agenda,
Yeah.
and I do too. That's why I was anti-Bush. It was
Right.
like, why the fuck are we going to Afghanistan and Iraq
Yeah.
and dumping all this money and all these resources and energy when we could be doing that at home? And I'm looking at all the problems we have at home with inner
Yep.
cities and everything. It's like we could be doing that, because you go to some inner cities and it's like a third world country.
Big facts. Yep.
So it's like, why are we not America first? And that's part of the reason why I do support Trump. I do like Trump, because a lot of his actions are not just what he campaigned on, you
Mhm.
know, or are what he campaigned on, which was like this America first marketing, branding.
Right.
But it actually turned out to be more than just branding. It
Mhm.
wasn't just him getting up and saying, well, America first, that's what we're going to do. He's really done a lot of things for America.
What in particular do you?
Um,
Because people are gonna come at you with that if you
Of
say
course.
something like that.
Of course. Particularly, what was the trade deal that he canceled in the early stages of his presidency?
I don't remember what it was called, but I do remember
That trade deal was murderous to America
Mhm.
and super beneficial to China.
Mhm.
And it had to do with pollution. And it was like
Yeah.
basically working its way towards a carbon tax.
Mhm.
But when you look at the information, America is one of the leaders in like revolutionizing like our carbon waste and things
Mhm.
like that. We're one of the leading countries in that. And China is one of the biggest polluters.
Mhm.
But China in that deal was getting Trans-Pacific something.
Yeah. I
it-
won't remember
yeah,
the name
yeah.
for sure, but
It was
I
something
do
like
know.
that.
Yeah.
China was getting like they had to fall like nothing in that deal.
Yeah.
And America had to like instate all these new things. And it was like by 20 years from now we had to cancel all carbon use. You know, like again, like asking a car company to make a car that runs on water overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, it takes a person like Elon Musk, who's like 1 in a trillion, to step up and like put his mind into that one thing
Right.
to revolutionize it. So like expecting that is like, whoa, like we got a lot of steps to take before we get to that point.
Right.
And I'm all about taking the steps and innovating, but we got to have the right leaders
Yeah.
pushing that movement forward. And it's not a politician.
Right. No.
It's not the World Trade Organization. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm still like, fuck the WTO.
Yeah.
You know? It's not that.
It's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, things like that. There's a fishy situation happening with Venezuela right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a bunch of research on this, and Venezuela has basically become like a drug and trafficking hub.
Yep.
So like it's like connected to like Cuba and like the Costa Nostra and all that, like the old gangs which are like rejuvenated,
Mm-hmm.
and now they've caught new people that are running them, and so what they say they're doing, and we'll see, in the future. I can't trust anything that's said right now, but we can look back on it later.
Right.
But what they say they're doing is that there's a family running the trafficking in Venezuela that runs Venezuela, and they're trying to take down the family and stop all this trafficking. And they say they have the evidence that they're trafficking all this cocaine, and they were trying to take advantage during the COVID situation and all this. So to me, that's an America First thing, as in, like, I don't like what drugs do to our inner cities.
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced it. I've helped out many people with drug addictions and drug problems.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I wish it would stop. In fact, I've sent many letters it's the first president I ever wrote to. I never wrote to a president before, but I sent many letters to Trump, like, take heroin out of our country. Why do we have heroin here? That's not made here.
Right, but I mean, it's here because of our government, so it's hard to like approach the government
Right.
in attempts to get.
So when
to remove
I see things moving towards that direction,
Mm-hmm.
I'm for that.
Right.
So I'm for let's cut off the drug trafficking from Venezuela, please.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's stop all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd
it's
rather see that than us fighting over in Afghanistan over some poppy fields.
undeniably. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that's a really nuanced one. The issue, I have not been keeping up with what's going on in terms of Venezuela. Only so much energy in a person,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But
no, and that's a tricky one too, because it's like what's true and what's not true.
Exactly.
Some of it's got to be propaganda for sure.
right, and I mean right away, like I just think like, well, I mean one of Hillary Clinton's like primary strikes against her was the fact that she like was instrumental in the Venezuelan coup that took place during the Obama presidency.
Yeah.
So it's like
And those are the
aiming
people
at-
that are now running.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like they destabilize this region in order to put people in power that benefit.
Whatever
Drug
it is,
trafficking,
whatever it is, whoever, it might not be for the Clinton specifically, but
Right.
it's some donor or some,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
Some powerful person that's going to advance her in some type of way.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
it's not, and when I see shit like this unfolding, it's like, oh, maybe Donald Trump is actually doing some rebellious shit against all this shit that I hate. And maybe he's not. I'm open to that too.
Right.
But we're not going to be able to tell for like 10 years.
Exactly. It's fucked up to pretend that right now you'd know.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't possibly know. And I've never claimed that. I would
Exactly.
just say these, like, if you want to call him a racist, what has he been racist? And I'll debate you on that and I'll prove you wrong.
Mhm.
I can go through a ton of scenarios like that. You're on a superficial level. You're just scratching the surface of what's going on when you're talking at that level. So I understand where I'm at, and I'm happy to whatever,
Right.
even lose a friend over it, because 10 years from now, we're going to figure out what the fuck happened and what
Exactly.
actually happened. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're wrong.
Mhm.
Who knows?
Right. And I think that part of that too is just like you have to hope that your friendships are strong enough and like that you are able to invest in the people who will disagree with you. And maybe it's like, yeah, I'm not going to talk to that person for a while. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's just like, I need to cool down from you.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I need to
yeah.
cool down from your energy.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
And-
mind the disagreement. To me, that's like a fun thing. I just don't like
Me
when
too.
it gets like
Yeah.
aggressive,
yeah.
when it's like, and then it becomes like I don't know. Some people, it just clicks and they're just like angry.
Right.
And it's like, well, I can't argue with angry.
Right.
I want to argue with intellectual.
Right.
I
Right.
want to have a deep debate.
Right.
And I can't when we're angry and we're on superficial things.
Exactly. Yeah. To like disagree, and it's like you disagree with me, so now you're a bad person.
Yeah,
and it's just
that's
like,
not fair.
we're no longer having a conversation. You're just trying to convince me I'm a bad person.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, it's so gross.
That's gross.
It's gross and boring, and
I don't like it. But I do like having, real debates. Like one of my old friends, Damien from Kill Tomorrow. Anytime I do these pro-Trump things, Damien's like guaranteed to jump up and stand up for, the left side of the argument, whatever it may be. And a lot of times he will present me with information that I haven't read or I haven't thought of, or a corner I haven't looked around.
Right.
And I appreciate that and like that. What I don't like is when it's just like that screaming child, just like, fuck you, you racist, or,
Yeah.
like wishing bad things upon me or whatever. Like, we don't, like, why?
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good things in this world. Why would you want that for me?
Also, like, why not see something like that as an opportunity? If it's like, if somebody really thinks that you are misinformed, how is if they really believe that, like, you are misinformed and harmful, why would the reaction be to call you some fuckhead, Like, what's the point of that? Like,
or belittle you.
Like, yeah, exactly. It's like, why not, like, be like, hey, Phil, do you know about this? Like, and then it's like, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if they posted that, like, if somebody came at you with kindness and was like, hey, here's information, and you were like, fuck you, I think what I think, they'd be like, why are you being like that?
Yeah, right.
Man? Like, but because they instigate it first, it's like, oh, it's just because he's a bad person.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point
He's
of that?
brainwashed.
Yeah.
He's brainwashed by Donald Trump. Maybe I am a little bit. Who cares? Everybody's brainwashed a little bit in some type of way.
It's true.
Like, we created all this, humans. We, like, all this. Communication, books, speakers, interfaces, microphone. Like, we created, these were all ideas, That's our whole society is an idea.
Right.
I
I remember there was a brief time, like, around like secret grief days and stuff, when that would often, the end of a conversation would often be like, X is a social construct. If you were just sick of talking about something, it was like, I don't know,
That's a social
Donald Trump's a
construct.
social construct, so it doesn't really matter. Like, it is, like, it's easy to dismiss things that way. It's funny, and also it's just kind of like, at the end of the day, like, yeah,
I wish with Donald Trump, he is for sure a social construct.
Yeah.
He's 100%. Like, it's almost like we're looking at a mirror of American society when we're watching Donald Trump.
Yep.
He's like all of the parts of it in one person.
He is.
And I wish people were more entertained by him and less like emotional, because he actually is a pretty funny guy. He actually says some pretty funny shit. And like some of the arguments and shit he gets into, or some of the confrontations he gets into, are fucking hilarious. They're very entertaining.
I will say one thing that I remember. I saw him and Melania handing out candy, and he just set this candy bar on top of this kid's Minion costume, and he like couldn't get it, and that shit was hilarious.
It's funny.
And I saw people like posting like, "Oh, look how mean he is to kids," and I'm like, "Are you serious? Like,
Right. You
this
never
is
fucked
like,
with the kid before?
exactly like." Kids are all right, whatever.
Yeah.
I want to say, like, fuck kids, I don't like kids, but that's not real.
Yeah.
But, like, you can pick on them, and it's just that's funny. And it's harmless. It's like, he gave him a candy bar. It doesn't matter. Or, like, even if he didn't, like.
Or that clip
is
where they were,
goofy.
like, giving out supplies or something to, like, somebody went through flooding, and he threw the paper towel and rolled into the crowd. That's funny.
Yeah.
And it turned into this, like, oh, how dare he? That's how he thinks of poor people. There to supply the
He's maybe an idiot, but
total idiot.
so what? At least he's not.
It's an
pretending.
interesting experimentation with having somebody like that as the face of the country.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like what I think anybody wants to represent them.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
even Trump supporters, they don't. But Trump supporters are heavily entertained, and if you pay attention, all the people that really suck in government are the
Yeah.
people that are constantly attacking Trump.
Yeah.
And he's like doing this shit back to them. That's just like, fuck yeah, I've been waiting 20 years to hear somebody say that to that fuck it. You know? Like,
Right.
fuck yeah. Interesting shit. Oh, we got one more song to play. We're going to play that song. It's another track by Joey Deuces. This one is called Tell 'Em That I'm Coming. And it's got a parental advisory on it. All right, here we go.
شديد يا جوبي يا جوبي جوبي جوبي
Somebody tell him that I'm coming, and I'm catching air like the jump man. Dropping bars like it ain't nothing, want a battle, I ain't running. I'm just keeping it 100. Somebody tell him that I'm coming, tell him that I'm coming, and I'm catching air like the jump man. Dropping bars like it ain't nothing, want a battle, I ain't running. I'm just keeping it 100. Somebody tell him that I'm coming. Bitch, you already know the deal, don't give a fuck about how you feel. If she hungry, then she can eat this dick like a Happy Meal. They ain't really dope, that shit just looking like bag of pill. Fuck your rapping skill, I'll drop the mic and get out of that for real. I don't plan on letting up until I have at least a meal. Get on the beat and I kill, in a pickle like a deal. Giving all of these people chills, been grinding to pay the bill. My life is under construction, somebody hand me the drill. Getting them digits, I'm swimming, trying to put on for the mitten. Of course these haters keep talking, they worry about how I'm living. But you pull up where I'm living, shit'll get hot in a minute. So it's best you act like a man and start minding your business. Don't have no time for that shit, cause I'm always out on a mission. Whether it's getting money and chilling or fucking your women. You wanna beef, I like grilling, I'll take your ego and kill it. Your boys are sense in the building, my skill is what somebody tell him that I'm coming, and I'm catching air like the jump man. Dropping bars like it ain't nothing, want a battle, I ain't running. I'm just keeping it 100. Somebody tell him that I'm coming, tell him that I'm coming, and I'm catching air like the jump man. Dropping bars like it ain't nothing, want a battle, I ain't running. I'm just keeping it 100. Somebody tell him that I'm coming.
All right, that was Joey Deuces. Oops, clicked the wrong thing. With his track Tell 'Em That I'm Coming. Let's see. Let's move away from Donald Trump. Actually, you just made a really good point. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
say it again.
Yeah, for sure. I can do that. So I think that what you said about Trump being a mirror back to people and a mirror of American society is really poignant because, as I also said, to me, like my big soapbox is mental health and mental wellness.
Yeah.
Because I it's something that I know deeply and personally. I've seen the effects of it, everything like that. And I think that a lot of people, especially white people, have a lot of self-hatred and like this sense of isolation and detachment and fear being called a racist so much
Yeah.
that to have somebody who they can publicly declare as a racist and in the same breath declare their hatred for that person, they feel like they're performing the idea that they're not a racist.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, that's a racist and I'm not that.
Yeah,
So they're using this mirror to define what they're not.
yeah.
When in reality, it's like, no, you should look past that and like see yourself in him and see
Yeah.
what you are claiming as racist and why do you identify it in that way and how do you relate in these ways? Like,
Yeah.
really, like, you know, not pretending that that's something that is like a static identifier. Like,
Yeah.
people can, like, I would be terrified if I felt like my views on race had not evolved throughout my life. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that I was ever hateful towards any ethnicity, etc. Like, to me, I think that that's one of the perks of like growing up in Muskegon in this neighborhood. Like, it's just kind
Yeah.
of like, to me, it was like, well, no, I'm not I couldn't survive if I was like,
Yeah, right.
that just
Yeah, I would
wouldn't
get
work.
killed.
Yeah, I would get killed, and also like the amount of like I would turn into like Lovecraft when he lived in Brooklyn, like where it's just like you're terrified to go outside.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And it's just like I could not have like functioned in society,
Yeah.
like going to Muskegon High School, like just living the life that I lived.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have done it, but that doesn't mean that like I haven't had to like develop and understand the nuances of my views on race and ethnicity and everything like that. Like,
right.
but again, it's like it doesn't like people can say stupid shit and it doesn't make them a racist. It means like
I was
they had a
saying
different
this.
experience.
I was saying this to my friend Victor the other day. I said he asked me because I had posted something on Twitter or something that was like, "Oh, the media is telling us what a racist is and what a racist isn't," you know. And he was like, "What do you think a racist is?" I was like, to put it simply, I think in order to be a racist, you have to do racist things.
Yep.
Your actions prove you're a racist. Not,
Absolutely.
I mean, like, and then I was telling my friend Mark Glass the other day, I was like, I want to make a meme that was like, something to, I can't remember how I worded it, something to do with I'm anti-racist because my uncle says racist things at Thanksgiving dinner.
So you're anti your uncle.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and we all like, you probably have somebody in your family that says stupid shit, right? A uncle, a grandpa, or what, you know, whatever. We come from different generations, different times, different ideas, different thoughts, different patterns, different propaganda and programming. Doesn't make them a racist.
Right.
You know? It's all dependent on their actions. If you go into a store and there's a black teenager in there and you have your children with you and you like,
right.
that's racist.
Yep.
That's a racist action.
You cross the street. Like,
or you cross the street because there's a black person walking towards you. That's a racist action.
Yep.
That to me is what defines racism.
I think
are your actions racist or not?
That reminds me of something that I was kind of hoping we'd touch on. I posted something on Facebook, and you messaged me shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
And I think that is exactly the conversation that Muskegon needs to be having.
Yeah.
The fact that like we can have these protests downtown and everything that are like sanctioned by the police, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And people are like, look at Muskegon leading the way.
Yeah.
And you ask those people to go on the other side of Seaway from where they are, you know? And it's just kind of like people get uncomfortable and they're like, oh, don't go over there. It's sketchy.
Yeah.
And shit like that. And it's just kind of like the action of dividing this community to where it's like most sections around Muskegon Heights are
safe.
Safe.
Yeah.
And over 95% white.
Yeah.
Like, to me, those numbers speak volumes above like, oh, look, we truly believe Black Lives Matter because we have this peaceful protest. And it's like, really, because you're not investing in this community. Like, you're not meeting your neighbors. Like,
yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, the fact that, like, people pretend that these kind of things are what provides prove that you're not a racist. And it's like, really, because you're building a society that is dividing race. Like, isn't that pretty racist? Like, you're encouraging these things. Like
maybe not even encouraging, but you're actively a part of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of people, I bet, haven't thought that deeply into it.
Right.
They've been like, holy shit, we're segregated. And I am choosing to continue it.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid to go into Muskegon Heights.
Right. Or I'm going to buy a house in North Muskegon. That's where my tax dollars are going. Like, Like things like that, where it's just kind of like, okay, so wait, you love Muskegon so much. Like, are you sure you do? Like, so not the people, you just love the landscape? Like, what is it you love exactly? Because the community is not what you are surrounding yourself with. Like,
right.
You're I mean, it's white flight. I know Darby talked about it a bit in the documentary.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, for me, like watching that, I was just like, thank you. Like, this is like what we need to be talking about is the fact that like Muskegon Heights deserves investment, and
Yeah.
it deserves these
Attention.
kind of things. It's beautiful, and
Yeah.
it's really great, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean the people. It's like they're
I love everybody that I know that comes from Muskegon Heights or downtown, which is like almost all black
Yep.
or Mexican.
Yep.
There are white people scattered throughout the Heights and
Yep.
stuff. I mean, it's not completely segregated. It's not like you're not allowed to go in there if you're white. You're very much allowed, and they're actually like, I've made some of the greatest friendships and relationships from people in Muskegon Heights or downtown.
Mhm.
Because I'm not afraid.
right.
I have no fear. I'm not going to get jumped. I'm not going to get attacked or all these things that we were taught. Because I said it in the very beginning of So Muskegon. This was an area you were taught as a child to lock your doors. And that's a very sore spot
Mm-hmm.
for me to say something like that, because my parents taught me that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm kind of revealing something pretty deep by saying that.
Yeah. It's
But it's not my parents' fault. You know, it's just this cycle that we go through. And until we start to think deeply like we're doing here and say, well, hold on, I'm continuing the segregation by secluding myself into
Right.
a white neighborhood. You know?
Yep.
Another thing that happened to us when we did So Muskegon is when we went to play the film at the movie theater
yeah.
at the Harbor Cinema.
Mm-hmm.
We were racially profiled by the Norton Shores Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't the first time they've done this to me. They did it to me at the donut hole too. That's who shut down the donut hole.
I didn't realize it was Norton Shores cops.
Yeah, Norton
Okay.
Shores once again.
Yeah.
I would argue that the protest should have took place at the Norton Shores Police Department.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that have a track history record of being racist.
Yep.
Through their actions. And this is what happened to us at the movie theater. They came in. I had a first rough cut premiere
Mm-hmm.
on the day after Christmas on December 26th. And it was sold out. It did really well. But the cops showed up the day before and started harassing the employees at the movie theater, saying, hey, you know, this So Muskegon crowd that's coming in is real dangerous. It's a real dangerous crowd, right? What do they mean when they're saying that? Dangerous.
Dangerous moviegoers.
Yeah, dangerous moviegoers, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that my movie's about the underprivileged black community,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's dangerous to go see a documentary film.
Right.
What? And then they came back, and then because it did so well the first night,
Mm-hmm.
the movie theater gave me a amazing deal, and they played the movie for a week.
Nice.
And then the cops came back
Mm-hmm.
and said that they need to have metal detectors and pat downs and all this shit and security to see a movie,
Mm-hmm.
because it was a dangerous crowd. And they kept enforcing that. So I reached out to the newspaper. I said, look, I feel like we're being racially profiled. Like, I'm not black, but I'm
Right.
representing a majority black crowd
Right.
who doesn't get very much in this area. They don't get much as far as entertainment goes. I don't know. Many people don't have the experience that I have, but
Mhm.
trying to set up a rap show is fucking hard. The police don't want it to happen. They
Yeah.
think it's violent. They think it's dangerous. And I've been actively working for 10 years to prove that it's not violent and it's not dangerous, and that we can have a nice, safe environment and have rap music and
Yeah.
black people.
I think that there's, for me, I can't ignore the fact that I've been jumped in that, on 8th Street over by where Schmidt Roofing used to be.
Yeah.
I've been chased out of, I think Casey might have mentioned it in the comments. We were once chased out of a neighborhood by this dude with a gun who was like, you don't belong here,
Yeah.
which was weird for me because these things all happened when I lived in this neighborhood, and it was always under the guise of you don't belong in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I get the fear to a degree, but also it's
just for clarity, I'm
Right.
not saying go into the heights and
Right.
see what you can get away
exactly.
with. make some
Don't
friends.
be
in
an
the
idiot.
Heights.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I'm saying. Just
Yeah.
make some friends and
And-
learn about their experiences. Maybe listen to them. Maybe ask them a question that will let them indulge a little bit more of their experience growing
Exactly.
up there.
Show them that you connect and you're there for like
Yeah.
good reasons and everything.
Yeah, you
like
don't got to
that.
go stroll around the Heights at midnight and see if you get jacked or not. You know?
You might, but
You
also
might, yeah.
go walk around Grand Haven like on a busy summer night. Like if you look the wrong way, some jock pricks are gonna
Yeah, we
kick
used
your
to get
ass,
it all the
like,
time.
exactly.
Coast Guard and shit. These fucking jock boys trying to beat our ass because
Yeah.
we were, young punk and nerdy looking or whatever.
Exactly. So it's just like this idea that like violence is exclusive to these communities and thus they must be policed in a heavier way
Yeah.
is just terrifying. It's unacceptable. I mean
Well-
I think that's why we have protests. It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was there was a point because Muskegon Heights was named like second most violent city in per capita, in the country or something. It was the top 5 in the top 5 list in the country because of per capita
Yeah.
killings.
Yeah.
And that's you can't compare it to like Chicago because the population is enormous in Chicago
Right.
compared to here.
Right.
But per capita you can. So that's like based on the percentage of people who live there
Mhm.
that die of gun violence or whatever. And it went through a very violent era.
Mhm.
There was a very, very violent era of Muskegon Heights, and it's been a slow decline. It ramped up, and now it's been a slow decline. But there was a point where the Heights enforced some major rules.
Mhm.
There was a curfew. There was a helicopter. There was state police,
Yeah.
Norton Shores, Muskegon Heights, Muskegon, Fruitport, all patrolling. Anybody out past curfew got pulled over.
I
I
didn't know
think-
about that.
And they shut down. Chicken Coop wasn't allowed to be open past midnight. The gas station Shells right across the street wasn't
Yep.
allowed to be open past midnight because that's where people were congregating,
Right.
K's and all that. They shut them down. It was for a month in the summer or whatever.
Hmm.
But I think it helped a little, and it
Right.
was temporary. It wasn't like I don't know. It's a tricky subject to think about because it's like I don't want to see I don't want to see excessive rules be placed on a community.
Right. No. No, but I mean at the same time like when you don't want to see that like full stop. It's just
I was fighting it when it first came out because I was like, that's fucked up. They can
Right.
tell a business that they have to shut down by a certain
Yeah.
time. Like that's what's American about that? That's not American,
right. Right. There's just the nuance of it to me is just kind of like if this is harming the community and the community is not correcting the behavior, to bring it back to what we were talking about before, if no leaders are stepping up to be like, look, we're killing each other.
Yeah.
We have to stop this.
Yeah.
Like at that point, like
The
again,
institutions are going to come
exactly.
in and do it.
These institutions that do not have your best interest
Yeah.
are going to come in and lead you. So you need community leaders to come up
Yeah.
and be like, we cannot keep killing each other.
Yeah.
This is not how we flourish.
Yeah.
And it's a community that deserves to flourish. So it's just kind of like, all
Very
right, well,
much.
like, if nobody else is going to do that, and these corrupt institutions are going to come in and they're going to do it in ways that are just like, damn, do you really
Harsh.
want that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real harsh.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Once unfortunately, there's all these tricks in society, and the
Mhm.
system is one trick you can get stuck in.
Yep.
And it's very easy to get stuck in it.
Yeah.
It's very easy. If you
Very well
fall and you
designed.
fuck up, you're stuck.
Yep.
And it's very hard to get out of the system once you're stuck in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, it just goes back to, like you just said, we just need leaders. We need to fix the roots.
Yep.
We need all different types of things. There's so many layers. We need better programs. We need better ideas or better thinking when it comes to what we lock people up for, because that's a very harsh punishment to give somebody, especially for a non-violent offender.
Yeah.
It's very harsh.
Yeah.
It's very fucking harsh.
Yeah.
Unjustifiably harsh.
Yeah, and it also it's just proven over and over again to not have any positive impacts.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So
They
it's,
repeat offenders, and then there's no rehabilitation once they get
Yeah.
out of prison. They're just thrown right back into the thing that created them.
yeah, exactly.
And it's elevated now,
Yep.
you know, because they might go away for 2 or 5 years or 10 years, or I know people that went 15, 17 years and shit.
Also, the fact that like you have people who are profiting off of those
Yeah.
things,
it's
like
fucked
the
up.
fact that prisons are private institutions so frequently in this point, it's just kind of like,
What's crazy is this. That's where it's going to lead if this defund the police thing
right,
happens. It's going to, like, I want people to understand. It's not that there's going to be no law enforcement. It's either going to be national, federal,
mm-hmm.
or it's going to be privately owned law enforcement. And if you look at the privately owned sector of prisons, they're the worst examples of what prisons should be.
Yep.
Period. Worst.
Yep.
The worst. So doing that to the police is a bad idea. And they're not telling you that, but that's where it's going to go.
Right, and the argument against that would be what people are, what I see being pushed as like defund the police, the implementation of alternative agents for specific situations. So like you call like this number for like domestic abuse and like somebody who's trained to deal with those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like essentially it's like putting it towards rehabilitation rather than putting it towards
That's what it
we
should
have
be.
now.
I
It's what
think I think Sweden or Switzerland,
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah,
I
think
can't
it's
remember which one.
Switzerland.
Legalized all drugs.
Yeah, I think it's
And
Switzerland.
Actually made the drugs available
Yep.
at rehab facilities,
Mm-hmm.
and like 9 out of 10 people who went to these, you can go to these rehab facilities and get the drugs for free.
Yeah.
You can only get so much per day.
Yeah.
You're limited, you know, so it's not controlling your life.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 people who went to these rehab facilities left sober.
Exactly. Yep.
And there's something about like the rebellious feature of like doing drugs and being a drug addict, or violence or gang related shit and selling drugs or prostitution, all these, there's something like rebellious about it that draws people in.
Yep.
And keeps them there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, how many people within like our community did we see die from heroin overdose?
Yeah, it was
you know?
ridiculous.
Like, and it's just, that's just two social circles, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll talk to people and they're just like, yeah, I don't know anybody who's died from heroin overdose. And it's just like, you didn't live in Muskegon, like
Yeah.
where like these communities are, where it's been put.
Yeah.
and shit like that.
Yeah, where it's been put.
So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of layers, you know. And if anybody walks away from this conversation, I hope that's what they walk away with. Is there's a lot of layers to understand, and it may seem overwhelming, but you just got to pick one, and do what you can to correct it.
Yeah.
Whether that's being a leader or being a follower and joining an organization,
Yep.
that's a form of leading in itself.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
It's all available. You just got to seek it out, and it's more than just being an activist. Is action. That's where the word is rooted in, is action, activist. So in order to be a real activist and make real change in this world, you have to act. You have to do something beneficial.
Yep.
And it could be a nonprofit. It could be helping out a homeless shelter. It could be mentoring a underprivileged child. There are many, many, many different things.
Yeah.
Just pick one. Just pick one and go after it. And if you succeed and you got that and you can pick another thing, then do that. You know what I mean? Just take it one step at a time. You don't got to change the world overnight. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to be very let down when you realize it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I would say also like the idea that you might get it wrong should also not scare you away from it.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
like you might fuck up. You might say something stupid. You might, realize 6 months in, like, man, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, but That's life. That's
That's
just how
life,
it
man.
happens, you know?
Yeah,
And
not everything's a fucking home run.
yeah, exactly. Most aren't.
Yeah,
Like,
you could strike out. Like, oh, that didn't work. Go back to the drawing board and figure it out again.
Yep.
You guys, anybody who's followed me for multiple years, how many different fucking things have you seen me do? You know?
many.
I ain't found one yet that fucking worked, but I'm still trying.
You're good at being tall.
Yeah, I'm great at being tall. That's like the first thing anybody says to me.
Yeah.
I thank them now. That's my thing. But yeah, just keep trying, and I hope nobody feels like I'm talking negatively about like protesting and whatever. I'm not. That's just like another thing that I understand is people are in all different points in waking up. That we're all at different points. Some are just beginning, some are much deeper than others and understand more. So I understand protesting is where I started when I was 15.
Yep.
Protesting George W. Bush and all that in Grand Haven once a week.
Yep.
That's where I started. And then I kept going. So like, I'm not saying that it doesn't work, it's not important, whatever. It's especially important for the youth.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that the youth should be active in protesting, and it's a good stepping stone to the next thing.
Yeah.
But that's not all you should be doing, is protesting, because that's just one thing. That's just spreading awareness, and you got to do more.
Yeah.
Actions, activist actions.
You have a responsibility
Yeah.
to do more, I think.
If you really care.
Yeah.
If you really care.
And if you don't, find something you care about.
Yeah,
like,
quit
for sure.
provoking and like fuck the trolling and
Yeah.
like all that shit. Usually when I troll, there's like a deeper message hidden behind my troll.
Right.
You know, like when I was doing that Trump shit and whatever, there was a deeper message going on.
Right.
I even said it then, like, I'm holding up a mirror to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You are reflecting yourself
Yeah.
back.
Is this who you want to be?
Yeah. So, cool talk, man.
Yeah, man. I like that.
That was fun.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna, let's see, I'll pull up a Secret Grief song
Oh, nice.
and we'll take it out on Secret Grief. Good old Bandcamp.
Nice.
You know, I was one of the people that brought Bandcamp to Muskegon and popularized it here.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
I found it
Oh, really?
online.
Nice.
It was already a thing going on,
Right,
but
right.
like I found it and started telling like all the bands around, like, hey, check out this website called Bandcamp.
Nice.
It was like 2006 or 2007 or something.
Wow.
It's very early. What song you want to hear off of Mutual Attraction, Opposite Direction?
Let's do Yuka with J&M.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
This is Secret Grief. Corey played guitar in this band,
Yeah.
and I recorded this project back in, when was this? 2013.
Wow.
7 years ago.
Yikes.